When you're on a spiritual path, there are always going to be challenges. But what if the single biggest obstacle, the one that causes the most pain and keeps us feeling stuck for years, is something we don't even see? In this explainer, we're going to unpack a pretty profound idea, that the hardest part of awakening is not at all what we think it is.
So I want you to just take a second and really think about this for yourself. When you hit a wall, what does that feel like? What's the struggle you keep coming back to over and over again? It's a question anyone on this path has asked themselves 1,000 times.
And, most of the time our answers look something like this. We think, oh, the problem is seeing the truth clearly. Or maybe it's, I get it intellectually, but I'm not embodying it. We tell ourselves, if only I could just apply the practice more consistently. Or, I just need to figure out how to overcome this resistance. These seem like the obvious hurdles, right?
But what if there's a huge twist here? What if we're all looking in the wrong place? What if the real challenge isn't any of those things, but something way more subtle, hiding right in plain sight? Okay, this is where it all clicks. On the left, you've got what we think the problem is. All the hard work, the effort, the spiritual grind. But look at the right. The real obstacle is the belief that there's a doer. It's this deep-seated assumption that there's a little me inside our heads pulling all the levers, who has to do all this work. And that right there is the core illusion. This feeling has a name. It's often called the separate self. It's that familiar sense of being a personal entity, a character who's in charge of their own spiritual journey. It's the me who's trying so hard to get somewhere, to fix something, or to finally become enlightened. And this whole feeling is held up by a few key illusions. And here they are, the three pillars holding this whole thing up. The separate self is built on the idea that I am the doer of my actions, I am the decider of my decisions, and maybe most importantly, I am the believer of my thoughts. We just assume there's a pilot in the cockpit steering our lives, but what if there isn't?
And this leads to a really mind-bending but incredibly freeing truth. You were never actually lost. The real you, the awareness that you fundamentally are, was never really identified with the body or the mind in the first place. It was never stuck in the illusion, so it doesn't need to fight its way out.
So, what happened? Well, the source author, Helen Hamilton, just nails it with this quote. We've forgotten that we're just watching. That's it. We got so wrapped up in the drama that we forgot we weren't actually one of the actors.
Think about it like this. Your entire life, your spiritual journey included, is like a movie. You are not the character up on the screen, struggling and striving and trying to win. You are the silent awareness in the audience, simply watching the whole film unfold. You were never in any danger. You were just watching a story. But we forget this. Of course we do. And when we forget, we get caught in this really painful loop. We have a moment of clarity, we feel present and free, then bam, an old pattern shows up, and like a reflex, that doer jumps in and tries to fix it. But that very effort to fix it is what creates all the tension and suffering. The only way out is to remember, oh, right, I can't actually do anything here. I can only watch. And just like that, the struggle is gone. And of course, this is the first thing the mind screams. It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? Wait a minute. If I give up control, if I stop doing things, won't I just be a victim to all my old patterns and be stuck suffering forever?
That fear is completely understandable from the mind's perspective. The mind thinks its job is to fix and control everything. But that whole fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of who you actually are.
And here is the profound, simple answer to that fear. You don't need to do anything to free yourself from the illusion, for one very simple reason. You were never in it. You are, and you have always been, the free, open awareness in which the illusion of the mind and body just appears. It's all happening by itself.
So, what does this actually mean for our spiritual practice? It creates a bit of a paradox. You cannot do your awakening. Any attempt to do it just reinforces the illusion of the doer. So the only real practice left is to simply remember, over and over and over again, that you are the awareness just watching it all happen.
If you only take one thing away from all of this, please let it be this. This is the absolute heart of the matter. You're never suffering because you're not free yet. You're suffering because you've momentarily forgotten that you're already free.
And remembering, this is the whole game. The author of this idea talks about putting little notes all over her house, in her slippers, by the teapot, in her car, with little reminders like, I just am and I can't do anything. She did whatever it took to constantly point her own mind back to this truth until it just became the new normal.
So,
We'll leave you with this final thought. In all of your striving, and all your effort, and all your struggling, what would happen if you just stopped? What if, instead of trying to fix the character on the screen, you just relaxed back into your seat as the audience? What if the only thing you ever really had to do was watch?